Busy day working on Gangrene. Getting ready for some of the final assembly. You see the passenger side pipe is in for the exhaust. Driver's side's almost done. So now that everything's been mocked up and it's all fitted where I want, I'm pulling the turbos back apart so I can put in the right fasteners that I want. I had just some basic grade 5 stuff holding it together for mock-up. I'm going to put in these fasteners. I got some aircraft style lock nuts for it. I got a stack of gaskets. So this T3 to V-band flange goes underneath the plate with a gasket, and then I'll get a gasket here, gasket there on the spacer, up top here for the turbo housing. This is the driver's side pipe, just like the passenger side. So now that all the exhaust pipes are mocked up, this will come back out. It'll get header wrapped for heat to keep the heat down from the wiring and some other stuff. The wiring will also get loomed up. So that's on the list of things to do. Starting to put on the turbo drains, and I'm going to run 10 AN drain lines. The lines are going to go through this hole here where the turbo sits. Let me show you. Well, you just have to imagine. Anyhow, the turbo drains are going to pass through that plate. They're going to go where these two notches are. I also notched the radiator the same, and they're going to come down there to the drains. Now I tapped the side of the block right there below the fuel pump. Everything clears. Fuel pump's on. There's the drains. It's going to clear the radiator hose. So that's something that I'll be plumbing. As you can see, I started to mock up my pulleys. Unfortunately, all the power steering pumps I have are press fit, and this kit needs a keyway fit power steering pump. So I'm going to have to order the right pump so that I can get the power steering. The lines are on, the Borgeson box is on, headers are on, plugs are in. They're NGK, I think -8s, NGK 7s or 8s for the heat range. I got my Taylor wire, and I got my ends. I got my distributor set in place with the intermediate shaft there, so I can start running my plug wires. This will be my turbo feed, so it's going to come off the back of the block along the firewall, somewhere in here or in here. I'm going to run a filter. I think it's a 50 micron filter, and then it'll pass up here, come along here. That's where the T comes in. It'll come over to this turbo, and then the T will run on over to this turbo. So that's going to cover my turbo drain and my turbo feed line, and it's going to filter the oil. Now I had an oil pressure regulator. I was going to drop it down to 40 psi. I'm not going to run that on this project. I think with the length of tubing and stuff, I don't think I'm going to run into an issue. So I'm going to hang on to those. I think I spent 120 bucks, 150 bucks on a regulator. I bought a few of them. I'm going to keep those for another project and just run this one straight off the oil on the block and not regulate it down. A lot of turbos, they do recommend to regulate it down to 40 psi, because you build these big block Mopars and you put in like a high pressure pump or something, you'll see 80 psi, and that's going to shorten the lifespan of your turbo. So in that application, it's better off to drop it down to 40 psi. In my application, I'm not going to worry about it. So that's the basic setup. The engine's in. I've got to get the lifters in, measure the push rod length, and then I can button up the intake manifold, the valve cover. So there's a nipple there. That's going to be for a breather on the valve cover. Okay, got one cleaned up. I got to clean up another one. And I got some boots there for a spark plug for the heat shield for the plugs. So I am going to run the evac kit on the other pipe, on the driver's side pipe. Let's come around here. So here's the driver's side pipe. Right, I come out the headlight there. I'm going to come up along the inner fender and drop down. This is going to be for my check valve for my driver's side for the evac kit for the crankcase vapors. That sits right up about here, and I'll punch a hole and I'll go up to the valve cover there. And then this bung here with the plug, that's for an O2 sensor. So if I just want to run a wideband, or if later on I decide to put on like a Holley Super Sniper and I want to run injection, that'll set me up for that. I've got one mount here that's going to help support it. Back here somewhere I drilled a hole. And then I'll put another mount mid pipe up here like I did on the other side to help support this. This pipe, I will wrap this as well in header wrap. That's going to keep me from baking my paint and keep me from heating up my tire. So now, like I said, now that all the mock-up's done, now that all the cutting and welding is done, now I'm free to back up and start wrapping pipe with header wrap like I did on the headers here, and try to keep the heat from tearing everything up. Anyhow, there's still more to go, but that's a project. That's where I'm at with it, and try and make some progress this weekend.